Welcome to this video. So in this video, I want to quickly show you how the color palette works in Tableau and when to use it. So I've connected to the Sample EU Superstore, a popular data set you can download online and start using. And I've also created a bar chart and a scatter plot. So if you want to see how I created this dashboard or this visualization, kindly check my previous video. So let's get started. So this is for illustration purposes. So this bar chart is ready and this scatter plot is also ready for use. Now, how do we add color and when do we add colors? First of all, let me just define the concepts of the continuous and categorical data. So in my previous video as well, I've illustrated and I've explained how this dimension data, categorical data, which are in blue pills, work, and how continuous data work. So if any of this goes into the color palette, how do they behave? So for example, we have segments and we have profits, which is a continuous variable already to plot our visualization. So if I decide to use, for example, category in the color palette, you can see it has multiple colors in there. This is because categorical data categorizes and we use this color to categorize them. But in the case where you put a continuous variable like profit into it, you can see that it has a different color. And this is because it's using sequential color in there. The sequential color basically shows the degree of volume or change in magnitude. And that is why we have sequential color. So color behave differently. For dimensional variable, you have, different distinct colors or hues you use. But this one shows a single color, sometimes monocratic color, just a single color, but it changes in respect to the value, that is in respect to the lightness and darkness. So it comes from light to dark. And again, this is just to show the degree of the change in variable. So it's trying to tell us that this is not as much as this one. So it's sequential, but we have just a single color. But again, dimensional has multiple colors in there. Okay, so it's not sequential. So that's how you should know how they behave. Again, for continuous variable, let's use this time around. If it has a negative value, it's going to use two different sequential colors. So I will illustrate that in here. You can see on the axis now we have negative values and positive value, but on the bar chart here we just have positive value. If I'm going to put for example, discounts in color, you will see that it has multiple variations in here. You can see. Let's try to edit it. It shows distance, right? Let's cancel this and decide to use profit where there will be value for yes. So these has values for negative values in here. So we can see that we have blues and we have oranges. So again, it's sequential, but there are two different colors. So sequential is for the purpose of showing the degree of change or magnitude of volume because we are using continuous data, and the negative will have a different color and also change the degree of change and magnitude. So when a user of a dashboard sees this, is going to know that, oh, okay, this is lesser than this thickness, so it's as added information. So let's edit color. So we see the two colors used in here. So this tilts to negative value and this tilts to the positive value. So if you want to set and always there will be a neutral color to show the demarcation, which is usually white. You can also decide to use a different color palette depending on you. Okay, when you double click on it, you can decide to change the degree, change whatever color you want. If you do not want it represented in red or blue, I will stick to this red and blue. And if you set a neutral color, where the neutral color lies, which is the middle or wherever you want the neutral color is, you can tilt this to say, I want it to be 75. I want it to be, at 0, whatever you want the neutral color for the demarcation is. So that is how you behave. So you do not need to get confused when you see such. Just know that continuous variable uses sequential color, and if it has negative, it has two colors that are sequential, and if it's a categorical data use in here, let's try to use categorical here. Regardless of the name, just ignore the name. We can decide to use region, category. It's also a categorical data. You can see multiple variables in there. So that's how they behave. Now, when do we use colors? Because colors have a way of the modalities for it. The first instance I'll be illustrating is we use them to enhance the design, so to make it appealing to the eye and possibly branding. So let's go to a dashboard. Let's create a dashboard and pull in a sheet in there, and possibly this one in here. That's created a color legend by default. So when do we use it? We can decide to, for this sheet, we can decide to change the background and add a color to make it like, okay, I want it appealing. You will notice something when we come to background. Just click on this sheet, just click in the middle format. It's going to give you the worksheets format panel. Now this is where you click on for the background, and you come in here and says white. Now if you notice all the colors or the color palette in here, they are calm colors and light colors, and this is what Tableau usually use for background colors. Okay, but for fonts it will be a different ball game. For example, let's decide to edit this sheet title, or let's just decide to use dashboard and say show me dashboard title. All right, so this is a dashboard title, and we'll do formatting, format title. When we get to the fonts, you can see bright colors in here. So automatically Tableau requires that you use bright colors or really eye saturated colors. We call eye saturated colors for the fonts. Why for the background, which is like, for example, shading, you will see less saturated colors, calm colors, so that the attention do not draw in there. So the examples of these calm colors are the ones you see in here. You can see off-white, you can see hashy colors, you can see brown, beige, you can see calm orange, a lot of them. So this will draw minimal attention from the main content, which is the font of our visualization, and to help for readability. And if you also want to install or upload your own color palette, there's a way to do that as well. You can put in your color palette, which is not the default palette that Tableau has, but just know that it's always good to have calm colors, less saturated colors as your background colors. And so yeah, that's how to change the background color of this dashboard. So let's go back in time. Let's go back. So again, for this visualization, when I decide to change it, it's going to give me calm colors as well. I can decide to make this one purple. When I come here, right click in the middle for the sheet to surface, I will come in here and say worksheet, and I will say green, depending on, always use complementary colors as well. I don't want to again abuse colors. I can decide to use everything to be the same, just so so it's not for decoration really. So secondly, and if you just want to make the entire dashboard, so just make sure you click on the panel, the first panel for the dashboard. The horizontal boundaries here, container. So you click on the container and you come to layout and come in your background and choose your background. And again, complementary colors will do. All right. So just for illustration purposes. Now, we've been able to go through the first reason why we use colors in Tableau. All right, so the second reason, going back to our dashboard and having known the concept of dimensional and categorical continuous data, we should understand that we can use colors to highlight areas of focus. For example, I have this my bar chart. Let's make this entire view. It's going to be bigger, and I want them to focus on this home office. So what I would do is to make sure that I highlight that area of focus for them, especially when I have categorical data. I want to make this categorical because I have continuous here. Let's make this categorical. For example, maybe region. Yeah, and I just want this alone to have the highlight. I do not want all this other ones to show me whatever. So I can decide to make this one the only color. So how do I highlight this home office, this particular one, which is a lowest of all? How do I highlight it to the user to ensure the focus on that area alone? So what I would do is to create a calculated field. So sometimes you will need to create a different field to say, let me say lower segment. And I would just fix segments. That's a calculation for now. Fix segments. And then sum the profit here because we have the profit in the rows. So I'm going to sum the profit and see what we have. Okay, I'm supposed to put a brightness. So yeah, cool. So now I've created a continuous value, and again, it would behave differently if it were a dimension, but let's just test it again. I can have multiple fields in the color. Which one will determine the color? Yeah, and I want this to determine. So I'm going to yank this off, and I'm going to put in this. Remember, it's a continuous variable, so you can see it's giving me the sequential code, and that's not what I really want. I can go with this to say maybe I want to edit. It's going to be complicated. So what I would do is to just make my lower segment field discrete. In this way, the continuous variable would behave like a dimension, like a category. So Tableau will see it as a category, like, so I'm going to convert to discrete, and I'm going to pull this in here, and voila, you have it categorizing. It's going to behave like having different points for it, and with this I can manually edit and say, okay, I know the highest value, which is red. I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to change this one to possibly, gray. And I have my gradients for gray. Yep. And I've successfully, now I did the reverse. So I want the lowest. So yeah, this is what should go into gray. Sorry about that. This will go into gray. This as well, but this will go into something deeper. So let me just say maybe possibly green gradients. All right, so you can see the suggestions of color I'm using, because it's seen as discrete, is going to give me very, very saturated color palette. So I will now choose which I want. So I've been able to highlight this based on that manipulation. Another thing you use color for in Tableau is to show progression. For example, you are in charge of home office and you're consumer, you want to see how your segment is progressing in the overall segment, and that will be lead us to creating a bar chart and a subset of a bar chart. We can quickly do that in this video as well. If you want to reference how this is done in details, I would suggest you see my previous video as well, but for now let's just see how we can manipulate this quickly. Let me create a bar chart, calculated field, mean to say percentage of total. This is usually percentage of total. So I'm going to fix the profits because that's what I want to know or see in regard to my segment performance. And I will say if segments equals to home office, be very careful with the spelling because it's case sensitive. If not, it's not going to recognize whatever you've typed. If segments of office, then give me let me just say focal area. It's going to be string focus segments. Else, just ignore. Okay, I do not want to know whatever else. I can just hint. You do not need else in this regard because just to group in. And I'm going to close so it's telling me aggregation. Okay, level of details need to. So again, this must be sum. Okay, because I'm summing the profit, and that's why it's going to be fixed. And I'm going to make this one. Okay. It's telling me, so let's just put this one as max just to make sure that we are aggregating. Is a measure. Okay, let's just remove the sum part of it. We can actually sum it after we're done. So this is what I expect it to be. Being able to create a calculated field, which is percentage of total. So I will show you how to use this to like show progression or track performance. So I will just put in profit into the rows. Where's my profit again? Is arranged in alphabetical order, and I'm going to put my percentage of total in color. So it's going to divide it into two. Again, this is my focus area segment, and you can rename this properly. I decided to put no for the purpose of this video. And here is where you edit. It's categorical. It's because I created it as a dimension. So I'm going to focus on these, and I'm going to turn this off to gray again, similar to what we've done before, and I'm going to show that. So this is showing progression like you're tracking, okay, which is quite similar to what we did here for emphasis and focal area. So, but with different contexts. So you gray out those ones that you do not need, and but in this regard, we're using it as progression. So another thing you can use color for in Tableau is to highlight performance indicators. I've created a video previously to show you how to show profits and negative. For example, if let's say this subset of the data is performing poorly and the other one is performing well, we can decide to manipulate the color. And usually this is used with categorical data, so it helps us to know how our KPIs are performing, unlike the sequential one. So this one can actually be possibly maybe green, and this can be most because of color blindness. We can make this blue most times and make this red, and this is like a performance indicator to say this part of the segment is performing poorly and this is performing well. So categorical data will be useful to put in this color mark. So the last use I'll be discussing in this video for colors will be how to add layers of information. For example, we have segments and profits already in the columns row, and you want to add there's a request, you want to see the categories, and you decide to put this in here and say, okay, these are the categories. We have the segments versus category here: consumer, corporate, and home office, and you'll be able to see the subset in each of the categories. And there comes in the request to say, I want to see the region, and you're like, okay, how do I manipulate this, or should I create another visualization? And you decide to do this again. You see that it's getting complicated. So you can put another layer of information on colors, and you have your visualization well compacted. So the user will be able to say, okay, central, northern, southern, instead of increasing each of the visualization and adding more information. So this is another layer. So in summary, we've been able to say colors are used to add design, to make it more appealing. We discussed about the background colors to use less saturated colors, and more saturated colors for fonts, while background hosts the calmness as a backdrop. Then we focused on the focal area. Color can be used as to emphasize a region, a particular area, just to draw attention to that side of the visualization. In this case, lowest shows, and you can decide to rename this to say lowest region. So again, if you have a lot of bar charts in here, you can decide to say, okay, I have 7 bar charts or 8 bar charts. I can decide to have a focal area, and this will be useful. Again, we use this as KPI indicators. If you want to show that a particular session is attention or is performing less than expectation, you can decide to use this and color red. KPI purposes, you can use this on symbols as well to show increment and decrease in profit or discount or whatever metric it may be. We also use color for percentage of total. When you have total segments, and maybe you just want a region or a particular part of the population you want to see, or also as a tracker how far you've gone in your progression, and this will show percentage, and color will be useful in that regard. And the 5th point, we were able to use it for sequential color, where you put continuous value shows degree in magnitude, change in volume as increase. Density wise, users will know that this is well saturated and possibly more saturated than this one, so it shows difference in magnitude. And the 6th point was how to add layers of information. So I think that's where we have it all, and your dashboard as well looking all cool and glamorous. We can decide to drag this into the dashboard, put it in here just for us to have a recap of everything. And there we go. We have our beautiful dashboard staring at us in the face. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like, please do like the video, share so that others can see, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.